Hello, let's have a look at what our next archetype is going to be. And the next one is Water and Fire, which is the actress. So that'll be our next archetype that we're going to look at. Now, the actress archetype is water and fire. So water is her outer element, and fire is her inner element in a way. So she's almost like the soul in service to the spirit, and she's an extremely passionate archetype, an extremely passionate state of consciousness. She's an archetype that gives color, drama, and a sense of really being dramatically alive, but it's very much based upon one's emotions and one's feelings and what one deeply cares about and what one's passionate about, committed to. So this is a fantastically motivating state of consciousness for taking action in some way. It could be almost anything really, but for instance, in terms of art, she really inspires you to follow your artistic obsessions. Similarly, in terms of relationships, which is another thing, attachment is very, very strong in her. Attachment is everything. Attachment in relationship. So relationships are also a great arena for her to actually express her meaning in and find her meaning in. And she is always looking for that meaning and to be true to that very intense personal sense of meaning, whatever it is. We can of course see her in all sorts of figures. She's naturally being the actress. You could see her throughout the media and throughout the film and theatre and stuff like this. She is the performer. She is the one who demonstrates and illustrates these great moving currents of humanity in that sense. So we see her in all sorts of figures, both new and old, in terms of these sorts of characters. Being so passionate and being so caught up in feeling and in inspiration, she can, of course, this consciousness can lead people to states of delusion and desperation. It's very much a kind of matter of ecstasy and agony. So, for instance, when things are going well for her and going well for this archetype, well for this consciousness, when union is promised with that which she seeks and which she is sort of in love with, then it is absolute ecstasy. When this is unattainable, it's through despair. So there's a great instability to this archetype, just as there was to the Fool in another way, which again is a fire and water combination. And of course, we can see this depicted in all sorts of literature. And we see it, in the whole drama of Romeo and Juliet, and this tragic unfoldment of story in things like that. Now in mythology, we see her in various goddesses. We see her in goddesses like Aphrodite and Venus. We can see her reflected in the great goddess Freya, who was a goddess of love, sexuality, magic, and battle. We see her in Inanna, Ishtar. These are all very, very powerful figures, and so these are very interesting things to look to in terms of what she was about. And again, we see all the drama involved in this, like for instance with Venus, her the discovery of her affair with Mars and things like this, and this there's enormous drama that unfolds, scandal, basically a kind of divine scandal there that unfolds around this. Yeah, because she can't really be repressed. You know, this great libidinal force, which she kind of personifies in a sense, can't actually be repressed. Yeah, we see her as well. We can see her in, for instance, figures like the so-called Whore of Babylon, who crops up in Aleister Crowley's work as well. And so this is a later figure that it sort of crosses traditions and seems to bring something much older with it. So I think you can see that she's a very, very interesting figure. She has this, I think what you could say is a sensuality of imagination and emotion, yeah, which in a sense is a counterpart to the this much more earthy sensuality which is locked up in the Hearth Priestess, that was earth and fire. Yeah, and the two together are very, very supportive of each other. There is something here which is again seems to maybe play into that whole thing about the Temple Priestess or what have you. There's probably something there as well. She's an extremely powerful figure, and one which I think is very interesting for us to look at. She does give this sense of personal meaning. You know, it's a very, very personal meaning that she gives to you, and she can give you this great impetus towards creativity. And also to search for those things which one really believes in, such as the belief in love. Yeah, you know, she will give you that that motivation, that obsession, in a sense, for what is really true and meaningful for you. So, really key consciousness in that way. But this is quite a closed consciousness in some ways, and you see, when people get stuck in this, it can become very, very destructive, both the despair and the disillusionment that comes from the negative manifestations of it, which tend to lead to things like seeking escapism and addictions and all sorts of things in drink and drugs and what have you, yeah, and other addictive behaviors. And also in terms of in just the most extraordinary narcissism, this complete obsession with one's own feelings, and everything is in service to one's own feelings and problems and issues and one's identity. So it can be a very, very destructive state if it goes into its negative forms. Also, it can be extremely emotionally violent. Yeah, it's probably the archetype of emotional violence par excellence. Yeah, just as the warrior would be the archetype of physical violence. Yeah, so it's a tremendously powerful, creative, dynamic, and meaningful archetype. But it definitely needs to have positive expression. Negative expressions are very negative indeed, and so you have to bear that in mind with it. Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that this is a inspiring archetype, and that it holds real keys to something. It holds real keys to an understanding of a part of what we refer to as the feminine, and it has keys to our exploration of sexuality and our exploration of creativity and art. It has a place in all these things, and a very important place. And as the key representative of drama, it's showing you something which has a great sacred function in ritual and in this kind of service, basically, this kind of being of service, in a sense, to bring through these energies and this meaning and these stories and what have you, yeah, so that an audience can experience these things and gain from them in a way which is really very, very important and key. And we've lost a great deal of that, which is part of why we tend to be so obsessed as a culture with drama and with celebrity and things like this, which is in a deeply degraded form of some of the things associated with this archetype, though she is far, far more than that. I hope that gives some idea about what she's about, and what she can be about anyway. It's an important archetype. They're all important. But she is the second of our like super dynamic archetypes. The Fool was the first. They both combine fire and water, but in different orders. The Fool was open. The Actress is a closed or fixed archetype. Yeah, but of tremendous power and of real importance in terms of her potential sacred function. So take a look at her, see what you think.